That reminds me of conversations we've had on past episodes about digital church. Like coming out of the pandemic, for legitimate reasons, there were quite a few people who couldn't engage in church in person. And so the video became an alternative. And there are some people still today I want to acknowledge who can't physically get to a church for various reasons. And there is a value in accommodating their engagement via video. But some churches are heavily relying on video as a complete alternative to incarnate church gatherings. And I just wonder if that's making this even worse, because we had Jay Kim on the show a few months ago talking about his book, Analog Church, and I think his prior book, Analog Christian. And just the value of incarnate in-person church life. And like this article talks about how this isolation is causing troubling social trends, isolation, worsening mental health, particularly among adolescents, rising aggressive behavior, violent crime. When people don't know other people, and if they don't know people who aren't like them, we don't build empathy. We don't build bonds of cooperation. We don't build good mental health. Like all these are critical to just human flourishing. And I don't know how you have Christian discipleship and flourishing without these dynamics. So it seems like some churches, in their desperation to keep the tithing going and attendance up and some very narrowly defined effectiveness of the gospel, are putting all their resources into this digital engagement, but are they shooting themselves in the foot? If you were launching a church today, Caitlin, in this environment, how would you
No, absolutely not.
No, you wouldn't launch one, or no, you wouldn't go digital?
Well, I wouldn't launch one. I am not capable of doing that. I think you're exactly right in that we don't often enough recognize that the tools that we use shape us too. They're not neutral. And so if you have the option of podcasting your sermons, that doesn't always just stay an option. Like it becomes what people want. And I really think, so if I was launching a church in an imaginary world, I would not have a digital option. And I think people would, people's response to that is usually, well, like, what about the people who need it?
Right.
What I would say is, I think sometimes we have used digital options as a crutch, as just like an easy answer, instead of saying, are there things that would cost us more in time and attention and money that could meet the needs of vulnerable people that we have not pursued because the cheaper, more effective option is just sticking the service online and saying that's done. And we've kind of checked that box. And I really do think some of this all stems from the persistent tendency in American evangelicalism in particular, in America in general, for us to think of humans as primarily brains on sticks. Like, I just receive information, and so I can listen to a podcast sermon and I can listen to some music on Spotify, and that's the same as a church service. Whereas historically, Christians have believed that it mattered that you kneeled for confession. It mattered that you received communion, and it was a physical thing that went into your body, that there was something...
It mattered that you could look up and see up the drummer's shorts.
Oh my gosh. I thought you were about to say it mattered that you could look up in a cathedral and feel the smallness of yourself in the awe of God, which is true, not the shorts. But it's just, there are very good things we can do with digital options, with the internet, with our ability to record. There's great things we can do. We're doing that right now. But if we're doing that because we have a wrong anthropology, we have a wrong sense of what kind of creatures humans are and what we need to flourish, we will fail. We will use it for things it shouldn't be used for. We will use it too much. We will use it in the wrong ways. And I think that's why I love this loneliness article, in the sense that I do think this is one of those things where this confirms what Christians have always said about humans, that we need each other in embodied community, that the incarnation says something about God's love for us, but it also says something about humans and what we need and how we function best. And that should be at the forefront of how we make decisions about churches, which kind of goes back to our earlier thing about the drummer in the shorts, which is to say we can do lots of like shiny, beautiful things. But if we don't really have a sense of what kind of creatures humans are and how the gospel interacts with our needs, we will make mistakes. Because yes, that's a really beautiful production, but even that sort of ignores like the deep fundamental need that a human has to be known by someone else and loved by someone else in community. And hopefully, I hope that churches that put on really amazing productions follow up, and so someone has an opportunity to be in that kind of community. But too often when we have those kinds of resources to make the really sparkly, beautiful production, we think that we've done our best that we can do, when maybe our best really is like 5 people in a room eating a meal together. And that's what we've historically done.
I think this is so interesting to me. We're going to talk about one more story before we wrap up here, having to do with why people are leaving the church and not engaging it. But, you know, you hear this, I'm sure. I hear it all the time from people, church leaders who are just twisted in knots about why are people leaving the church and why isn't the church having a greater impact on American culture and society, and why are all these, you know, nuns happening, blah, blah, blah. It's everywhere. And yet articles like this and a bunch of others, and just anecdotal stuff that you and I are all hearing from young people and seeing, like, the whole culture is screaming about how desperate they are for incarnate, meaningful connection and relationship. That is the culture's great need right now, as we are caught in this digital vortex of devices and screens. And here's a moment where the world's great need is immediately met by the church's mission. Like, the church has always been an incarnate community that is trying to foster real connection between one another and God. And at that moment when the church could be the answer, so many are going, no, we want to go digital. No, we want to be more disincarnate. No, we want to have more multi-site screens and da. And I'm not saying they're all doing that, but it feels like there's such an opportunity here. And I don't know if a lot of the churches positioned to monopolize on it. I mean, it sounds kind of crass, but there is a real opportunity here for church communities to be what our culture needs right now.